Okay, have a nice new tape, put a nice new outfit on, and we're ready to go. Good, good coffee. Okay, now, we ended the last tape with the opening of the Lawrenceville Safety Town and the excellent cooperation from ER Squib, I'm sorry, who was the large pharmaceutical company. Anyway, their PR company was part. They hired a real big PR company. I can't recall a big PR company, which was part of Public Relations News with Denny Griswold in New York. Now, I had not, while I was very, very interested in public relations, I felt this was a crucial point of any organization. And my only regret is that I couldn't do what I really wanted to do with public relations. While I love my husband dearly, he did not believe in public relations. He thought that was just paying money out and nothing coming in. And he wanted to see, I guess like most businessmen did, see a product that we sold and brought money in. And what I tried to explain to him is public relations, you have to go out there and work for a while and then get with large companies and so forth, and we never had the money to do that. Although I tried to get PR people on from interns, and when I did hire like Gail Kulkar and Pamela Servansky and other people, they were very nice people. I loved them dearly and I enjoyed working with them. But they were right out of college. They didn't have the experience of how to really work and deal with the corporate level people. And you have to remember this is back in the 70s and 80s. And the corporate people were mainly men at that time. They were older men. And they were dealing with older people in positions of organizations such as ours. And when they met someone like a Pamela or Gail, they thought they were nice, but they knew they were just out of school, and they really weren't going to sit down and negotiate and do some large promotions with them. So that was, I think, one of the big, I'm going to say mistakes. It wasn't a mistake because I wanted to do it. One of the areas that I really couldn't fulfill as much as I wanted to. Okay? But we worked around it, and as I said, I had a public relations board and did different things, but we still needed one big professional person to really coordinate it. And I think then our PR board, such as Bruce Akers and Dick Atkinson and all the other people, would have been more inclined to listen to our professional PR person telling them rather than an intern telling them. Okay, but anyway, Denny Griswold, I found out in 1975, was the founder and president of PR News, which was the first, number one, and the largest PR news publication in the world. I think they went into, at that time, 60 or 70 countries. And I don't know how I really received this copy of her case study, whether it was sent to me from ER Squib or from, I think that's probably how I received it, or maybe from Lawrenceville JC's. But anyway, in her publication, she always had a nice publication, 4 pages, and inside she always did a case study on something. And this one is case study number 1514, Adding Extra Dimension to Corporate Giving. And I won't read all of it, but I'll read a few paragraphs. Donating money to worthy causes is by itself an important part of a business organization's social responsibility. But such a program is greatly strengthened by addition of an extra dimension, enthusiastic contribution by employees of time and services. This is because they built those houses. An example is found at ER Squib & Sons, leading manufacturer of pharmaceuticals. I didn't know they were the leading pharmaceutical. Squibb employs 900 persons at its headquarters office in Princeton, New Jersey, not Trenton, sorry, has placed its local corporate contribution programs under supervision of Community Relations Manager Laurel W. Jones. When a request came to her for a financial contribution to the Lawrence Township, New Jersey Junior Chamber of Commerce, JC's, for the summer of 1975, she responded in a manner consistent with the company's philosophy and policy. Safety Town had been developed originally in 1937 by the Mansfield Police Department to help teach the basic concept of personal safety, both inside and outside the home, to children in the 4 to 5-year-old bracket. Classes are held in a specially constructed area where child-sized buildings, streets, tricycles, and traffic lights serve as teaching aids. Gradual adoption elsewhere of the concept has led to the conduct today of 100 Safety Town programs in the state of Ohio and another 100 elsewhere in the United States. All are sponsored by such civic organizations such as JCs, Kiwanis, Rotarians, and PTAs. Jones' reaction to the request for funds was the program should also enlist participation of Squibb workers. When Grant Wolfkill, vice president, approved the concept and cleared it with management, she arranged for employees to work on community service projects during free company time. Maintenance staff members were approached and provided the necessary space in basement of one of the buildings, in one of the Squibb's buildings. To enlist a wide spectrum of Squibb personnel, 2 secretaries sought the assistance of a few employees in each department. A total of 32 took part. They contributed their particular talent to the project whenever they had spare time during normal work days, and many other members of the employees' families became involved as sidewalk superintendents. Stories in the employee publication stimulated interest of those who didn't work close to or regularly pass near the construction area. Squibb, of course, paid for the plywood, hinges, and other supplies needed for construction of the 8 buildings, collapsible for convenient transportation and storage, which would constitute the new Safety Town. The cost was $170 for material. The units, each built to Safety Town specifications, are a drugstore, firehouse, police station, general store, post office, school, Joe's ice cream parlor, and the First Save Thee Church. Squibb craftsmen hammered, sawed, and assembled them in 4 weeks. Then the artists, research scientists, accountants, illustrators, secretaries, administrative, and specialists took over the painting job. A number of extra decorative features, a steeple, general store were added. For 3 days following the completion in early July, the structures were placed on exhibition in the Squibb Art Gallery. A poster-sized notice listed the names of all who participated in the project, and publicity photographs were taken. That's great PR for a company. The buildings then moved to a vacant parking lot at an elementary school, which had been assigned by the school board as a location for the summer program Safety Town classes. At the site, JC's other community volunteers and municipal fire and police workers had painted street signs, sidewalks, and set up the junior size signs and a cut-down traffic light. The Squibb-built structures were erected at the assigned places. Little cars were donated by local merchants to provide realistic safety training. Attending the official dedication of Safety Town, a rainy, drenched Sunday afternoon, were over 300 persons. Among them were Squibb executives and employees, city councilmen, city officials. They explored the streets and houses of the projects. JC President Thomas Kozlowski voiced appreciation to all assisting volunteers. Refreshments were served courtesy of McDonald's. Local media, such as the Lawrence Ledger, gave extensive coverage with photographs and articles and credit to Squibb employees for building all the houses. NBC TV sent a reporter camera team to fill a class session interview program principals. From this was developed a 3-minute film clip which presented the activities to metropolitan New York and New Jersey viewers on the local evening news show. During the next 4 weeks, on weekdays 2 hours long, classes were held for youngsters. They were assigned in groups of 5 to a police officer and a teacher. A teenager had been trained in safety teaching procedures by the JCs. Coloring books, games, films, stories, songs, poems were used. Through role-playing and simulating actual life situations, they learn such basic principles of personal safety. Not to misuse plastic bags, how to cross the street, risk when walking between parked cars, coping with railroad tracks, riding bicycles, school bus practices, and help provided by fire and police forces. At the completion of the last class, graduation ceremonies were held, and all students were given report cards and certificates of completion. There are many evidences that the program won Squibb community respect and goodwill. A letter from J.C. Kozlowski to Squibb President Charles A. Fadden, Lauda Jones, and the other Squibb employees. In today's world, he said, big business is often criticized for wanting too much but giving too little. It is truly refreshing to see that Squibb does not take that stance. Squibb can take pride in knowing that it played a major role in making Safety Town happen. There have been numerous expressions of gratitude from parents, and 6 months later, employees are still hearing from other town residents that they regard Squibb highly because, for example, it seemed to care about people, as evidenced by the Safety Town program. The benefits of the program will be continuing for Squibb as in the community. The Jaycees will repeat the Safety Town course next summer. Some Squibb employees will again be involved at the very least by assisting at the 1976 graduation exercises. Now, when I received that, I thought it was great PR for the program, but said nothing about where to contact for information, nothing about National Safety Town Center. So I contacted Denny Griswold, sent her a letter. We have a very, very big file with Denny Griswold and PR News back in the office. But I contacted her and asked her, complimented her on this, and asked her if it would be possible to do a follow-up on what the center does, so other people and where other people could write for information so they could get a program started in their community. And you'll see down the line in the file, it took about a year to go through the case studies, but she did a very nice article. And this is where I'm going to digress for a minute, because this lady was, and I have pictures of her in the office, she was one of the nicest ladies. From what I understand, she was originally married to either McGraw or Hill of McGraw-Hill Publishing. And one night, in the middle of the night, she woke up and said to her husband, you know, there's no publication for public relations people, because she was in public relations, I guess. And she came up with this idea of doing the newsletter, and he backed her, and that's how that got started. Now, I went into New York in the, I think in 1976, I would be specific in the PR file, to meet her and her second husband. And they were just delightful people. We went, my husband loves to tell this story. I had him call various airplane flights to find out the cheapest flight we could get to New York. And at that time they were like $59, $79, $99 round trip. And it was also the year that Sammy Davis and Bill Cosby were playing in New York a play called Two Friends. It never really got off the ground very well, but I called New York, and I called California, and they sent me 2 tickets. So we had tickets for the show, and then I thought, well, we're going to go in and tie in with to see Denny Griswold. This had to be somewhere, I'm saying 77, 78, somewhere. I'm not too sure around there, those dates. But this whole trip tied in so beautifully. So we had the tickets for the show. We were going to take Denny Griswold out to dinner for thank you for all the nice things that she did for us. This, and as I said, the follow-up case study. Then we also met with a gentleman from J.C. Penney's, because I wanted to have a sheet put in our catalog, in their catalog of our Safety Town materials. And we took him to dinner, or took him to lunch. Okay, we flew out early in the morning on a very cheap flight to New York. My husband hates New York. He hated it before and he hated it since, and he hates it. He still hates it. We get into New York, and of course it's gridlock, and we're in a cab, and he's getting just very, very upset. So it's not going anywhere. It's moving bumper to bumper to bumper to bumper. So we were close to the Waldorf Astoria, and it was around 10 o'clock or so, and he was getting hungry for coffee. So we told the cab driver, okay, we'll get out, and we'll pay you here, we're going to get out. We got out, went into the Waldorf Astoria. Continental breakfast, I think at that time, was $7.95 or something for a coffee and a croissant, a roll and a little glass of juice. Well, Frank was, livid. So he said, I'm not paying this kind of money. So we went across the street to a little deli and had a bagel and coffee. Finally went to our hotel. We found an inexpensive hotel. It was down in the theater district, but because we knew we were going to the theater that night to see Sammy Davis and Bill Cosby. So we checked in our hotel. Then we get into a cab and get down to JCPenney, and we meet with this gentleman. I can't think of his name, but we'll add it from the files. And we took him to a restaurant where Jack Parr used to talk a lot on the Tonight program. And again, I think I had a cocktail, and I think the gentleman did. Frank did not, I don't believe. And we had a slight lunch, and I think our bill was like $60 plus, okay, which we weren't used to that. That's New York. We then went back to our hotel to change, because then we were going to go clear across town to Danny Griswold's home. Now, it was a Friday night, and we get in a cab, and the cab has an accident, just a slight scratch on the side or something. I think I was on this side of the cab and back, and he cut too short, and the fenders meshed there. So he gets out of the cab, and they're talking in some language. We didn't understand it, but Frank was upset because the meter kept running. So we finally get back in. He gets back in. They resolved the situation, and whatever native tongue they were talking, I'm not sure. Now we have to go through Central Park, and he says to us in broken English, the park closes at 6 o'clock, but he said, I think I can make it. You watch out the back window for police. So we get in. The gates were still open, because at Friday, I guess at 6 o'clock, they close the park for the people Friday, Saturday, and Sunday to enjoy, and then they open it Monday morning for people to drive through and take a shortcut to avoid some of the traffic. So the gates were open. We get through. Now we're watching on all sides, out the window and so forth, to get through the other side before they get there to close that gate. We zoomed and we zoomed through when we got there. Okay, so we get to Danny Griswold's, and just a sweetheart of a lady, 3 stories, had a nice little elevator that went up and down, beautiful, beautiful antiques. She explained a lot of them during her travels. We walked down about maybe a block. She had made reservations. I told her she was much more familiar with restaurants than we were. At Claude's around the corner. Very, very, very elegant place. Well, the price, I think, was a prefixed dinner. I don't know if I have the menu or not, but I without beverages, wine and so forth, I think the bill was prefixed at $65 or $70. And of course we picked up the tab on that. We then had a very nice dinner, and then took a cab back there. We walked with them back to their hotel, back to their apartment, and then we took a cab from there and clear across town again back to the theater to see Bill Cosby and Sammy Davis. Well, the thing of the story, we spent probably $1,000 for the hotel, for the dinner, for the lunch, and all the other arrangements, and we were scrounging around for a $59 or $79 airfare. But the whole trip cost us about $1,000, and I guess by today's standards that's very cheap, but it was one of those. It was a wonderful, wonderful day. I mean, it was fast moving for me. Frank kept up with it, but he said he just couldn't take that pace in New York. But I loved it. I would have loved being in New York. But one of the fun moments, one of many fun moments, and again, just such nice people. That lady went on to, she invited me every year. She had a wonderful, an elegant, distinguished black tie event where they honored top PR companies around the world, and held in the most elegant hotels and ballrooms, sculptures, just everything beautifully done. And every year she invited me, and it cost me, I think, $200 or $250 a ticket. It was expensive, but I felt this was something that I had to keep going. Again, believing in public relations. She introduced me to, and I have pictures with Lee Iacocca. She introduced me to the father of Pierre Edward Bernays, and who was, I think he was 92. I gave him a kiss, and Gail Kulkar went with me one year, and I gave him a kiss on the cheek on his 90-some birthday, and I sent him a picture, blew it up to 8 by 11, and he was so nice. He said he entered it or sent it into the PR museum because he thought it was such a great picture, and also because it celebrated his birthday and all. What a wonderful man. I mean, he was so alert, and I could have sat and listened to him tell stories. He was just, it was just spellbound to sit and listen to him. Wonderful, wonderful man, wonderful people. And I have pictures of all these people. They're on my wall in my office back in Cleveland. Okay, now, getting back to 1975. This is the 4th International Congress of Automotive Safety. It's put on by the U.S. Department of Transportation, July 14th to the 16th, Hotel St. Francis, San Francisco, California. And the National Motor Vehicle Safety Advisory Council is pleased to invite you to participate in the 4th International Congress of Automotive Safety. And of course, I went out and attended this conference. Again, it had nothing to do with preschool safety education, but anything to do with traffic and vehicle safety. I felt there was always a way that I could get up at a meeting, and I always did. I don't care how large the session was or how small. I don't think there was ever a session, and I'm saying a session like would be from 1 to 2:30 or 3 to 4:30, something of that type. There weren't many sessions in all the years that I attended conferences that I did not get up and somehow tie in what we were doing to what was the program in that particular session. I just had to. That's the only way we could get the publicity and keep it known. And again, a lot of that, none of that ever showed up in the program, never showed up in any minutes of anything. It was just a spontaneous reaction after a speaker, and I normally would wait till maybe all the speakers would speak, or unless it was a speaker that was very early in the session, but it really was relevant to what we were doing. But I would wait to hear all the speakers, so then I could have a better feel and tie in more of my comments, not just on one speaker, but on all the speakers. Brain worked a lot, but it was fun. I lived, as they say, I lived, ate, and slept Safety Town. Okay, now here is this nice letter, August 4th, 1975, from E.R. Squibb, from Laura Jones. I had written her a letter. I don't know where my letter is. It's probably an E.R. Squibb file back home. Mrs. Schlad, thank you for your kind words about the Squibb-built Safety Town houses. The project was a delight for all 38 employees involved. Well, it's at 32 here. This is 38 here. But the 8 who painted the houses would be especially pleased to know your reaction. It is kind of you to offer to write them. Please direct your letters to this address, and they gave the name of the people involved. the 8 people who made the houses. It was Beth Borum, Maggie Brennan, Kathy Granado, Karen Carvelis, John Mack, Diane Moore, Karen Slewinski, and Gloria Zimbardley. I will forward your letter to me that you sent to me to Mr. Grant Wolfkill, our Vice President of Public Affairs. Could you give me more detail of what would be involved in the project you mentioned about a squib pharmacy? I am interested in this prospect depending on logistic problems. We appreciate you taking the time to write to us about our local safety town. Now, I wanted them about a year or so, maybe 6 months after this. I went up there and met with them, submitted them a proposal so that I wanted them to, again, sponsor Safety Town or somehow get involved with it on a national basis. And they were talking about the squib house, or squib pharmacy, is that in every Safety Town that we built, would we include in our plans a squib house for them to do. But there wasn't any financial arrangement in there. So again, I did not have a professional person to work with them on how to do that. You have to remember, while I was doing this, I was still writing the books and working with local people, doing seminars and doing all the other things. So that is something that really could have gelled. All these things could have gelled, would have been wonderful. After Bill Cosby became our honorary chairman in 1976, for any of our workshops, we made a certificate of appreciation. National Safety Town Center expresses its appreciation too for participating in the Safety Town workshop, and we put the date and the time in Bill Cosby's signature and my own, and then the state director and the district director, because we had some states broken down as within districts. Now, this served a twofold purpose. It allowed us to recognize at the end of every seminar or workshop, I would call each individual up and personally present this to them. And then it would also, they would take this back. We would give them one sheet of a PSA, public service announcement, to take back to their newspaper. We would take a picture of them and a Polaroid and have them take this back to their people in the news media and put it in their local newspaper. And it also gave them, for some of their schools, if they were with a school or police department, they needed some verification they attended the seminar. So it served really 3 purposes. Okay, this is November 2nd, 1975, from our New Mexico coordinator, Ron Saldino. And it says, gentlemen, we heard, this is from Ron to me. This was before he became our coordinator. He wrote to us on November 2nd. We heard about your Safety Town when we were living in New Jersey and would like information as soon as possible, as we are opening a daycare here in Albuquerque and would like to install a Safety Town in it. Ronald A. Saldino. And as a result, Ron became our director for the state of New Mexico and organized one in Albuquerque, and I'm not too sure we did any more in New Mexico. We have a few in shopping malls, but not to the extent that we probably would have liked to. November 5th, 1975, this came from Oakland, New Jersey, from Jean Bosco. She was a secretary with the PTA. I came across a September 1974 article in a Women's Day magazine. Now, the article was in September of 1974, and this lady wrote, it's a year later, November 5th, 1975. So she kept the article. I guess we all do that. We save these things and follow up later. But after reading the article, your lessons for pre-kindergartens, our school could certainly use any information you might have available. Our town has only a few walkways, but most of the time our children are walking to school in the street. If you by any chance have the booklet Your Child in Traffic, Parents, Safeguard Your Child, or any pamphlets, please send them. Okay, information on, and that was in Oakland, New Jersey. going to put that one here because that should be in another area. Okay, this is from Ronald L. Thompson, Bicycle and Pedestrian Safety Coordinator, Department of Safety Education of University of Wisconsin in Whitewater, November 14th, 1975. Dear Mrs. Schlatt, I have not yet received the Safety Town materials that you mentioned in your letter dated August 25th, 1975. Since more time than the 3 weeks that you had anticipated for shipment had passed, I am writing this note as a reminder. I would appreciate receiving the materials as soon as possible, as I will be revising a community safety guide in the near future and would like to implement your ideas and refer to your center in that guide. Okay, this is again, we ran out of the books, the second printing, and we had to send letters. But another way of how they didn't have a safety town, but they used a lot of the material in there to put into their safety brochures. So our brochure, our manuals, my manuals were the first ever written for preschool safety education children. I didn't know that at the time either, but these are things I think when we do this video, redo it, we really have to highlight these things. Now, I'm not saying there weren't articles written, and I'm not saying that people didn't teach safety before I wrote the manuals. What I'm saying, my 6 manuals that I broke down every 15 minutes by a program, and especially the curriculum, on what to teach the child and why you were teaching it, and about child development, and all the aspects involved, had never been done before. Usually a booklet was written, a coloring book, or some type of pamphlet for parents to, make sure you tell your children to look both ways before crossing the street, things of that type. But never as far as in a curriculum that we knew of. This was the Cleveland Press, December 1975. Traffic expert says tots need safety rules. And this was an article from the American Automobile Club. I had sent them all my books from my first involvement with the Cleveland Automobile Club in 1968. And when I had my first 6 manuals, the AAA in Washington said that they couldn't endorse the program or encourage their automobile clubs to get involved unless they read my material, which makes sense. So, of course, then we sent the information, and that was in 73, 74. We sent them some of the first books that came out, and now they came out and said that that tots do need safety rules, which I think was that should be framed and really enlarged and blown up. Okay, July 6th. Now this was, what year is this now? This is 75. Now we're going to go into 1976. Now I don't have my calendar book. Oh wait a minute, yes I do. Here we go. Okay. In 1976, we started going with this type of calendar book, which was really great because I wrote Jacqueline's on one side and mine on the other side, and we could know exactly what we're doing. And then eventually what we did is Jackie had her own and I had my own because we just got too involved. But again, here is another day-by-day account of what we did during 1976. July 6, 1976, this is from Judy Wooten, W-O-O-T-E-N, Batesville, Mississippi. The Batesville Junior Auxiliary plans to have a safety town as a project in September. The Monticello, Arkansas Junior Auxiliary sent us the project report that they had in 1974. In their report, they stated how helpful you had been in advising them on the necessary preparations for safety town. Again, this is how I kept telling people I would go and help them set up on one condition, that they would after they got set up, that they would help another community. And the first time I ever used that was, well, the first time I ever made a presentation was in Strongsville, Ohio. And they offered to pay me, to give me an honorarium, I think of $25, and I refused it. Dum, 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 because I could have used it for the center. But my husband being on the school board, and at that time it was just so civic-minded, you didn't do things like that. You did it just because you wanted to. But in 1968, when I went out to Strongsville, I told them, and I don't know what made me say it, and I said, you know, and that's been, what, 68, this is 90, 30 years ago. But I can remember so vividly the people there, and I remember saying, when they offered me the honorarium, I said, no, I said, you use that to start, to get, you buy some cars for your safety town, whatever you need to purchase for the, if you have to purchase the wood or whatever, I said, use that for a donation in your safety town. I said, I came out here to help you set up on the condition that once you set up, you will help another community set up. And that's really when I started networking, and networking wasn't even in at that time. So when networking became popular, we said, we've been doing this. And I use that almost every presentation that I always made a note and used it at the end of my presentation, no matter where I traveled, whether it was next community or to the West Coast. Now, these are very nice, two very nice pictures. This was on 9/21/1976, which happened to be my birthday. This is Mayor Ralph Perk. He was mayor of Cleveland, and this was our National Safety Town Week. And we presented Ralph Perk with one of our Think Safety shirts. Of course, this is Mayor Perk, this is myself, and this is our daughter Lynn. And Lynn attended many of these functions with us, behind the scenes as well as, not too much in front of the scenes. She didn't like in front of the scenes, but she did a lot of helping register at seminars, and made a beautiful, beautiful display that we took into Chicago for the National Safety Congress, a tabletop that was just huge. And she made, being an artist, even at that age she was an artist, made little stick stop signs and little houses, and painted it beautifully. We have pictures of it. And here's another picture of Ralph Perk, and in this one he's presenting me with a certificate from the city of Cleveland for National Safety Town Week. Okay. This publication, I have two of these. This publication, I was so excited about this. I don't know how this really came about, but as I said, every time I went somewhere and talked and kept telling people we need publicity, people would just follow up, and then I'd get these things in the mail. This was done by the American Mutual Insurance Alliance in Chicago, Illinois, and I believe this had to be, because our address was Terminal Tower, this had to be probably 1970, it had to be 1976. There's no date on the pamphlet. But this was an insert in their magazine. Here's how to start a traffic safety project in your community. Now you have to remember, even though I was explaining Safety Town as a total concept of safety, including home safety, fire safety, because all the money from NHTSA and from agencies of this type and corporations of this type were still traffic related, and there's nothing I could have done. So it had to go into this category, unfortunately. And there we are. There's a little boy, one of our boys from Bedford Safety Town, buckling the safety belt, and a nice article, very quick, I'll read it. This youngster buckles his seatbelt before driving out on the Safety Town course. Such safety education programs for preschools are among the most successful projects sponsored by civic groups. Each year, the number of people killed in traffic accidents in the United States is equivalent to wiping out a medium-sized city, every man, woman, and child. Since 1900, the traffic death total exceeds the total killed in all wars in which the U.S. has been involved. The need to reduce this tragic toll has encouraged many groups and organizations around the country to initiate traffic safety projects. The Jaycees, for instance, operate automobile safety checks lanes in many cities. The Boy Scouts of America and Area Safety Council run bicycle checks. Other community and civic organizations sponsor driving course programs to identify roadside hazards or model safety town projects for children. Okay, and then it says here simply, establish a safe town in your community. For information, write National Safety Town Center, Terminal Tower, 30th floor, Cleveland, Ohio. And then, and here was a nice picture of the layout of our safety town. So again, excellent publicity, and we received a lot of nice inquiries on that. Again, it's one of those things we didn't have the time to keep track of how many inquiries we received, but always received inquiries. This letter is dated October 21st, 1976. It's from me to Dick Wayman. This was like 2 years after the Highway Safety Foundation folded. After they folded, as it stated in there, I was going to be on their payroll as of June 8th, 1974, after the telethon. Actually, it's July 1st, 1974, I believe I was going to be on their payroll. But until that time, I was Department of Highway Safety. So what my attorneys were trying to do is, they felt, since I did so much work for the Highway Safety Foundation, that I should have been compensated, even though I was paid for my trips, that I should have been compensated for my time. But because I was paid by the State Department, but again, this was so touchy, I was only paid by the State Department for Ohio things. And anything outside of Ohio was supposed to have been later picked up by the Highway Safety Foundation. But anyway, they contacted, I contacted Dick Wayman and Ernst at that time and said, you know, look, sent him a letter and said, look, I think, you know, I should be compensated, that type of thing. And I think our attorneys, I think Herb Hoppy or Jim Griffith, one of them, maybe both of them, followed up and tried to do something. But after a year or so, they came back and said, no, there was no legal contract. I was not an employee of the Highway Safety Foundation, and they were not obliged to pay me as part of their debt that the Highway Safety Foundation, that Ernst & Ernst was going to pay to the Highway Safety Foundation. So I never got paid for it. But anyway, I wanted to really find out what had happened with this whole thing, why the organization had folded and all that. And as I said, it explains it in video number 1. I did that. But here is a letter I sent to him after Frank and I went out to California to meet with him and sit down and talk behind closed doors and say exactly what happened. Dear Dick, it was so very nice to see you again. The California climate certainly must agree with you because you really do look super. Frank, Don, and I thoroughly enjoyed talking with you and greatly appreciate you being so gracious and affording us your time. Now this Don, I can't remember his last name, but he was the public relations, he was a police officer, but also public relations for Mansfield Police Department. And I took him, he was, I'm trying to think what capacity he worked in, but he was just a delightful man, and I have pictures of him along with Frank and I going out there. I personally was very pleased to hear that Sammy's going to again become active in the safety field. Now all Sammy was going to do was to keep his name on all the safety films that they had done with the Highway Safety Foundation, and that's all he was going to do, is nothing else. With him in the driver's seat and you with your tremendous experience in safety and business fields, there is no doubt that you will be a tremendous success. We have several exciting events that will be announced within the next few weeks that will tremendously help our organization. As they are announced, we will inform you. Dick, with my interest with the young children and you're interested in the older kids, which they were the teenagers, I see several ways that we could work beautifully together. Give it some thought and do keep in touch. Of course, he never did, and shortly, I don't know how many years thereafter, he passed away. Okay. This was November 1976 in Morristown, New York. Yay, I wrote on the back of the picture. I have here, this is Frank on this end, and next to Frank is Glenn Kozel, Koezel, and then myself, and it was Lee Burke, our New Jersey State Director. This was presented to Glenn at their state convention in New Jersey, because for 1976, from 75 to 76, the JC's Adopted Safety Town is a statewide program in New Jersey. And we presented, and there's a beautiful plaque, I know you can't see it here, we presented them that big, beautiful Safety Town plaque, our octagon plaque on wood with red and gold lettering, with pewter lettering. It was beautifully written, and a nice little stand to hold, to put on a desk. They were expensive. I think they were like $150, $200, and at that time that's a lot of money for plaques. But I felt anything worth giving was giving well and doing it well. So this was what we presented to him in November. Now, this is the second publication. This is the entire publication of PR News. Remember I mentioned it's a 4-page. She did 1 page. This was very, and I really kept her format for my newsletter. What she did is, on the front page she kept, did short versions of national interest. And then she would do a case study on one particular program, and then on the back would give other information. And I really kept this format a little bit, mainly the first page of my newsletter was always what we were doing national, and then on the inside page would be the Cleveland activities, the Greater Cleveland activities, and then I would put about our coordinators and different articles about children. So she really helped me as far as doing my format. This is the second case study she wrote for us after when I wrote to her and said, would you do something about informing your readers about our organization and how to write for information. Okay. This was case study number 1565. Remember, the first one was case study number 1514. This one was a public service activity for inclusion in a community relations program. I love the titles of some of those things. We used to sit up at night, or I did, and I'd read them up, and then I'd talk with Jackie about them, and also with Gail and Pamela when they were with us, trying to come up with some. You always had to come up with some real nice, clever, catching title. Okay, now let me very quickly read this. Public service efforts which benefit children are among the most rewarding, both immediately and long range, that can be conducted at the local level. This is especially true when they are perennial in nature. An example of such an activity for which assistance and publicity on a truly national basis were achieved in 1976, after many years of refining and hard work, is promoted and aided by the National Safety Town Center, Cleveland, Ohio. While there are now some 300 local safety town programs in operation, this is considered only a very small portion of the potential. National Safety Town Center's work is most visible through small-scale symbolic towns maintained in individual communities to acquaint 3 to 6-year-olds with traffic hazards. But the broad objective of NSTC effort is to give instruction to all areas of safety that 4 and 5-year-olds encounter. Mrs. Dorothy Schladd, who is an outstanding authority on preschool safety education and also NST's founder and president, lists a dozen areas of potential danger beyond those many town itself can define. Examples being home, medicine, poisons, bus riding, safety belts, railroad crossings, playground equipment. Child awareness of hazard involvement in these other situations is created through education of the parents. instruction by police officers and teachers and others at Safety Town, and classroom activities. The importance of the Safety Town program to its most immediate publics, parents, grandparents, preschool-age children, teachers, is underscored by figures of the National Safety Council. These indicate that in 1975, 25% more children died in the U.S. of accidents than from the next 6 leading causes combined: cancer, birth defects, pneumonia, etc. However, because Safety Town's publics concern other groups in any community, and because conduct of a full-scale Safety Town project can involve people from such groups, it provides additional satisfaction to organizations and their employees which participate. This becomes evident upon examination of the scope of local Safety Town programs. The focal and most news-making aspect in an annual conduct of the 2-hour program is called, the focal and most news-making aspect is the annual conduct of a 2-week, 2-hour-a-day course for preschoolers and first-year children at local Safety Towns. Sort of a stumbly sentence there. The physical facilities of such towns vary greatly, but in all cases they consist of child-size, about 4 feet square buildings, which may consist simply of paperboard packing cases with crayon on doors, windows and signs, situated on a mini street with sidewalks and crosswalks. These are painted on a temporarily unused paved area, such as a parking lot, preferably and usually adjacent to a school, for shelter during rainy periods. Some have elaborate traffic light, others symbolic ones. The whole represents a downtown area with the addition post office, schools, police station, ice cream parlor, etc. The children will be visiting or passing. During each course, real-life situations are simulated with the aid of pedal-operated toy cars under guidance of instructors wearing shirts with the legend Safety Town Instructor. These key personnel are recruited from among police, nurses, teenagers, businesses, employees, and trained teenagers. The optimum ratio considered to be 1 instructor per 4 children. This usually provides a good opportunity for teaching experience on the part of a high school student contemplating a teaching career. Schlad characterizes such students as a major part of the program. This phase of the Safety Town program is, of course, simply a greatly strengthened version of the original Safety Town, which was developed in 1937 and gained the sponsorship of Schlad in 1963. At that time, it was in operation in only 10 communities. Growth was still slow. In 1968, there were 20, but Schlad kept making improvements and promoting the concept for 2 years as district representative of the Ohio Department of Highway Safety. It subsequently increased popularity and value as a public service project, really dates from 1973 and appears, hold on, let me find, okay, that's right. And appears to be due to 5 factors: greater involvement of parents during the 2-week course, addition of safety instruction with respect to non-traffic areas, making the effort of essentially year-round activity greatly expanded, help from NSC to local groups, and increased financial support and publicity. Some of the other educational aspects do not lend themselves as readily to the involvement of business and other organizations, except for the essential financial support at the national as well as the local level. But they maintain interest and make a better program, and therefore tend to assure continuity. Among the expanded facets of the program are these: parents now attend the first and last session in their entirety and the last 50 minutes of each other session with their children. During the balance of the course, they have an opportunity to take special training in a nearby school, a powerful reason for setting up the Safety Town adjacent to a school. They learn how to make the youngsters aware of non-traffic hazards which might be avoided, but also such subject as first aid, bicycle buying, seat belts, and so forth. These were classes we gave for the parents. Under NSTC prompting and with its assistance, year-round classroom activities with a safety orientation are conducted. Visual aids, tape recordings, and movies are used, and safety information is also imparted by means of songs, games, coloring books, and such activities as making a fireman's hat for the child's own use and drawing safety-related pictures. Additional sessions conducted by policemen on the street are used to relate the life-size vehicles and why not to chase balls in the street. Other supporting activities are field trips by bus to police and fire department facilities. NSTC, which is a nonprofit public-supported organization in which Schlatt started to put together in mid-1974, is now well organized. It has a 30-member advisory board. The well-known entertainer Bill Cosby became its honorary chairman in October 1976. The board is composed of experts on various aspects of preschool child development. They are public relations, publicity, and promotional officers who carry out vigorous programs. Schlatt herself has made more than 250 presentations and launched some 50 safety towns. Persons or organizations interested in developing local programs are given a wealth of information. There are a 27-page, 8.5 by 11 general information guide, a stop sign brochure, and 6 guidebooks developed by Schlatt over a 6-year period. NSTC also conducts one-day regional workshops for local safe town personnel, supplies speakers to assist in the latter, arranges local appearances by Clancy, a clown who performs safety-related magic tricks and whose name is used on printed materials and T-shirts, furnishes such supplies as posters, stationery, balloons, bumper stickers, and little cars, and publishes a newsletter which keeps the advisory board members and local groups informed. Surveys show that NSTC activities greatly increase tots' safety aware attitudes. Praise has come from many authorities. More than 100,000 parents and or grandparents enrolled 60,000 children in last year's Safety Town course. Some 15,000 teenagers and 6,000 adults assisted in their conduct. And the first National Safety Town Week, introduced last September, was proclaimed by 100 mayors and 20 governors. And so that was that. If we had to pay for this publicity, it would have cost us thousands and thousands of dollars. But we were fortunate to have people like this who gave us a lot of nice publicity. Okay, that was 1977, right? Okay. This is March 29th, 1977. This is from Jackie Krause of Barrington, Illinois. Dear Mrs. Schlatt, Safety Town of Barrington Committee members have begun meeting in preparation for our 3rd summer program. In order to make up our budget for 1997, we'd be most interested in receiving your latest pamphlet. It appears that Safety Town is here to stay in Barrington. Thank you for all your help. That was great. Okay. Now, in we're still, I think, in around 1977 here. These pictures don't have dates on them, but I think that's when they are. Again, we're going to have to do a close-up on these, but this is to give you some idea. When we had to move from our house to our apartment in Solon, this is what I'm trying to think if that was the year. Let's see. Lynn was born in 58, and she would have been 1674. This would have been about 76, 77. Okay. Here are some pictures of how before we got an office. This one here is me. We had a very small room, probably the size of a normal bathroom without the fixtures. Probably a 6x8 room, if that. Maybe, yeah, 6x8 room. We had all of our shirts and boxes stored on. We didn't have room for a chair. We actually sat on boxes that came in filled with coloring books or whatever, and that's what we sat on. And we put the typewriter on another box. So we were typing from box to box, sitting on a box, typing on a box. And this was a little room that we typed in. This was our living room in the apartment. And this is another picture of our living room. And there is Jacqueline taking time for a cup of coffee while she's packing an order. But that was our packing. That's how we lived for many, many years. Either in the house, in the apartment, in the garage, And you'll see pictures of the garage as well, I'm sure. Now, now you have to remember we had to get things delivered in quantity, okay? And we had to get a one-time shipment. You are not going to believe this, but this is all our bedroom in a one-bedroom apartment, two-bedroom apartment. Lynn had one bedroom. This was our bedroom in the apartment. We had boxes from floor to ceiling, just enough room to get into our bed. Down here, you can see where our dresser was, but we had things piled all around the dresser. So it was just, I look at this and I just can't believe that we lived that way, but that's how we did it. This will be in a book. Definitely going to make it in a book as well as a video. This is from Karen Schreiber, Assistant Director of the Meadville, Pennsylvania, the Unity Institute. Karen was involved with the Head Start program in, I believe, Painesville, Ohio, and I spoke to their teachers, and she was so impressed, and so were the teachers, about the child development aspects that I talked about, that when she went out to the Unity Institute in Meadville, Pennsylvania, she asked me to come out and be a speaker there. And I had originally planned to do seminars on the road, and I think I was going to be out in Iowa at that time. So I asked Frank if he could drive to Meadville, Pennsylvania and do this, which he did. At the last minute, I was able to arrange after the seminar, because this was, I believe, on the weekend, like Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, after the seminar in Iowa, I think it was, I was able to get a plane and fly to Meadville and meet Frank, and so I was able to be there for the presentation anyway. And this is her letter to us afterwards, May 25th, 1977. Dear Mrs. Schlatt, thank you so much for coming to our conference this weekend. Your presentation was great, and your personal enthusiasm about Safety Town was inspiring for all of us. Thanks again so much for coming. You really made the conference worthwhile for us, and your presentation of the plaque meant very much to us, a real honor and a real surprise. Keep in touch. I presented them a nice certificate from Bill Cosby. There's Bill Cosby's signature on it, that I give to people who do above and beyond. And I happen to have some with me in the car. I had one or two with me. So we went downtown, Frank and I went downtown in Meadville, bought a very nice frame, and I told Karen that I wanted, after the banquet on Sunday night, I wanted to be the last speaker, just for a few minutes, to present this plaque to the president and appropriate people from the Unity Institute. Now, their featured speaker was Mr. Lenore, I believe it was Lenore Bennett or Benet from, he was the senior editor of Ebony magazine. It was mainly a black convention. And it was through Head Start, somehow through Head Start and the Unity Institute. But they had worked so hard in putting this program together. I think it was the first time, and I told Frank, I said, a lot of people didn't know up until that time, until the very end, that Bill Cosby was involved with us. During my presentation, I just talked about the Safety Town, and I didn't mention anything about, and there were only about 3 or 4 people in the room regarding Safety Town. So at the banquet, there were several hundred people. I mean, I would say there were probably 200 people in the banquet facility. So I took that opportunity really to help promote the organization, to promote Bill Cosby being with us, and also to thank the people involved for putting on the event. And it was the last thing that I, as I said, was the last event on the program after Lenore Bennett spoke. And I gave the award out and said, you know, I know how much time it takes to put an event together like this, And on behalf of our honorary chairman, Bill Cosby, I would like to present you with this certificate. Well, there was a nice groan in the sort of, oh, in the room, because no one had known that Bill was our honorary chairman. I had not mentioned it previously. And a lot of people came up, including Eleanor Bennett, and said, you know, if you see, the next time you see, you know, Bill Cosby, say hi to him. And it was very nice. But it was interesting for us, I think, to find out how a lot of these Head Start people, how hard they had to work to get some of these programs going, and we could identify with that. Okay, this one was, and by the way, they presented us with a very, very large plaque that we have back at the, and it has Frank's name on it because Frank was going to be there instead of me. And we've often laughed about this. I get these little 8.5 by 11, nice plaques, nice citations. And here Frank gets this beautiful wooden plaque. And we have it in the office, and it had something to the effect that if enough people disagree, when lots of people are in line, and if enough people disagree about the line, they can step out of the line and make a new line and form a new line, something to that effect. And that was really just to make some changes, and I think that's what the Head Start people had to go through. This is from Largo, Maryland, Prince George Community College, Ann Little Devon. We would appreciate receiving information about your program that we read about in the June issue of the NAEYC Bulletin. That's the National Association for Education for Young Children, which I was a member of at that time. Okay, so that's another organization that we got involved with. This is a letter from Ken Light, manager, School and College section of the National Safety Council. Dear Dorothy, everyone who attended the meeting Monday was impressed with your presentation and the progress you've made. In my follow-up report, I alluded to our luncheon discussion about a joint National Safety Council, National Safety Town Center film project. See copy of memo enclosed. I am confident it will receive a favorable reaction. I'll be eagerly awaiting an opportunity to respond to your more formal program proposal. As you know, I'll be in Denver and so forth. Now, there were so many people within the National Safety Council individually that wanted to see Safety Town under the National Safety Council umbrella, and I felt that's where it should have been. It's just that they were so structured, and you had to go through so many little subcommittees and committees to get to the top board, and by the time it got to the top board, again, because they were mainly an organization with occupational safety, they had, of course, educational safety too, but their primary focus was to help industry and business, and those were the projects that came up first. For example, when that first brochure that we had, Safety Town brochure explaining what Safety Town was, when I sent those out for donations to major corporations, and we went through the help of June Pfeiffer and some of our interns, we got all the major corporations, DuPont and all these companies, we sent it around the country. We sent that brochure and a cover letter and a self-enclosed envelope to send back a donation. Very simple, very nice and neat. I think the man's name was Stanley Williams from DuPont, called me on the phone, and he said, I received this information, but it doesn't tell me anything. You know, it doesn't say who's involved with your organization, which it didn't. It just said Safety Town is a program for children, and it showed pictures of children doing things. And I said, but we're nice people. And he said, I'm sure you are, but we don't know anything about you. That particular phone call prompted us to then make another brochure in which we put Safety Town community involvement, and we then had Bill Cosby's picture on the front inside cover with a message from him, which gave us credibility. So anybody that would open it knew that Bill Cosby went through this and wouldn't be affiliated with something that he didn't know about the organization. Now, the other thing that Mr. Williams told me, I told him that we were working with the National Safety Council trying to get them to absorb our program. And he said, well, before they undertake your program, he said, I have a project from DuPont that we've had on the drawing board for several years. So he said, I'm sure mine will get in there before yours. So that's what we had to contend with other corporations who wanted programs picked up by the National Safety Council. But a lot of people, this film project never again gelled. And again, every time I look at these, the only reason they didn't, some of these did not follow, we did not become to fruition is simply because we did not have appropriate personnel to stay on the case, to stay on each case and follow up. We did the initial opening the door, got them interested, and then I had to go off in different directions. And in the meantime, the organization like National Safety Council we were working with either had another project that came in because we were not there. You have to follow up and be there, and it has to be the same person because they like, as Cole Lewis said when I went out, to them, that corporations give to people. Well, he was part of a corporation, but he was a person, and he said he had a lot of people come in with excellent causes, but they just did not either present themselves well or just did not have a nice communication. And he said, we're people. We want to work with people who we like and who also have a good cause. And that's important. And I guess I was very, very good at that because everyone kept telling me that, I kept saying, please get somebody else to go on the road and do all this because I get tired of saying the same thing over and over, and it's like I'm selling my own product. And that I had to overcome for a while. At the beginning, that was very, very difficult for me to do. But they kept saying, Dorothy, you know it better than anybody else. You have the enthusiasm, and that's what sells it. You have to do it. And I just had to do it, even though, as I said, at times it bothered me. Okay, here we go. This is from Array, R-H-A-E, Blynt, B-L-Y-N-T, Director of Fundraising for the Meadville Unity Institute. This is May 24th. On behalf of the entire Unity Institute, I would like to thank you for speaking at our conference this past weekend. We realize the demands on your schedule are great, and the extra effort you made to be with us on Friday made your visit even more special to us. That's because I had to fly in. Although the attendance at the conference was small, this was at my particular conference, we had originally hoped for. We felt all those who did attend the conference gained much from the discussions that were held. More importantly, we here at the Institute gained more insight into the Institute and our work here. We are certain many positive actions will result from this meeting, not only for ourselves, but our children and youth everywhere. Once again, thank you. Thank you both for all you have done for the Unity Institute. We feel we formed a very dear friendship with you this past weekend, and hope this will continue long into the future. And very, very nice people. And of course, I responded back, and on July 8th, she sent May 24th. During the summertime, during our programs, it's difficult for me to keep up with correspondence. Many letters I opened by kindly accept my apology. Dear Ray, thank you for a very nice letter and the complimentary comments about our presentation. We enjoyed being part of the conference. Okay, now I think that really should, well, as part of the Unity Institute, I'm going in by the dates. Okay. This is July 14th, 1977. Jeanette Wilkerson from the city of Chattanooga, Tennessee. And this is interesting because they just called not too long ago, a couple of days ago, and they're interested in Safety Town. They're in American Red Cross. Okay. Dear Mrs. Schladd, we made a safe trip home. As you know, it's always good to get away, but oh, so good to be back home. We all three came home greatly motivated after seeing the splendid setup you have with your Safety Towns. We believe they are well worth the time and money that is involved. Our pictures came out real good, and we have a meeting set with our commissioner on July 21st. He is a very fine person and is safety-minded. On behalf of Captain Vandergrift, Captain Day, and myself, we say a big thank you for your being so very cordial to show us around, and the splendid hospitality that was shown to us by all concerned was the greatest. We hope to have the pleasure of seeing you again, possibly in our fair city nestled between Lookout Mountain and Missionary Ridge, and hopefully during the opening of our safety town. And that was in Chattanooga, Tennessee. Now that's got to go in another file there too. Okay. This is for National Safety Town Week. That goes there. Okay. Now for some fun thing. There were so many of these. I know that I have them scattered throughout, but my husband, with his great sense of humor, would get me these cards. Sometimes he'd write them and sometimes he'd make them. This one says, some birthday advice for you. If you go out on your birthday, don't forget, buckle up for safety. And there was a card, then he added Safety Town. Otherwise, your pants might fall down. And there was getting out of the car, and the pants fell down. And then he put Think Safety on, he put Happy Birthday, and said, hey, safety lady, I love you, you're Executive Vice President. So some of the fun things that he did for me to keep me from going insane, I guess, keep my sanity. Sorry, my throat is getting bad here. Okay, this is Colin Barker, manager, March 14th, 1978. Okay, we're going to 1978 now. And here again is another one of our yearly reports, 1978. I don't know how I'll ever get to read those, but someday, who knows? In my old age, sitting in a rocking chair, I can read those. Probably won't be able to see, have magnifying glass reading my little tiny print. This is from the Capital Region Safety Council in Victoria, British Columbia. Dear Dorothy, enclosed, please find a copy of the presentation made to the AAMVA conference. It's American Automobile something or other. The paper was backed up with a number of visual aids of our program, including student handout material. I have also enclosed a copy of our safety bulletin covering the very aspects of our Bicycle and Safety Town program. Over 28,000 children have taken the Safety Village course in the district. For the past 2 years, we have had better than 100% attendance from all 3 school districts. Some classes have been coming twice in the year. And now, I went out to Victoria, British Columbia to visit these people, such nice people. They did what we considered Safety Town Phase 2. They would bus the children to the, they had a permanent facility, and they would bus the children to the permanent facility for a day from the school year. However, I felt, and I still feel, Safety Town the first phase should be the children should learn about safety this summer before they go to school, to learn about the bus procedures, crossing the street with a safety patrol guard, these situations that there's no way they would know about unless they have had some training for. And of course, dealing with the strangers and that type of thing. Okay, this one does not have a date, but it's from Cliff Green, from the Victoria, British Columbia. This had to be late 78, after I went out to visit that beautiful, beautiful place of Victoria, British Columbia. And they treated me like a little princess. Just wonderful, wonderful people. Dear Dorothy, this letter and its content should have been waiting for you when you returned to Cleveland, but I wanted to send along some pictures that I thought you would like. But as usual, when one is in a hurry for something, the unusual happens. The negatives I put in for copies got lost, and you wouldn't believe this, but they have taken a month to find them and return them. Anyway, I finally have everything together, the pictures, the paper clips, and a note from me. I have received my camera, thanks, but as far as the extra film and flash cubes, you shouldn't have. But you're a doll, thanks. I sent him a camera. I think he had some problems with it, so I think I bought him or sent him a camera. I can't describe the fine feeling and pleasure it was to finally meet you and talk to you in person after all the years of letters. Your visit has brought about a much more understanding interest of the goals still to be reached in this field of child safety. It is one thing to teach something to children, but quite another thing to understand what it is that stops the child from being able to comply, and now getting this over to them so they know what is making it so difficult to accomplish. Now that's a rather long, complicated sentence, but I think I know what he meant. Anyway, I want to tell you how very much I enjoyed your visit and your company. I found our conversation very interesting, so interesting that the time just flew. I surely hope that you will be able to visit Victoria again on a pleasure trip. I know that I'll look forward to it and enjoying another visit and a nice talk over coffee and lunch. I admire your dedication and your positive approach. You have done more for the advancement of safety towns than anyone. I wouldn't be surprised in a few more years you were known as Mrs. World Safety Town. Isn't that nice? I'm going to have to use that as a quote. Like that. Nice. Okay. I forget about some of these nice things. Now, even though I stopped working with the Department of Highway Safety in '74, and after the Highway Safety Foundation folded, as I stated on video number 1, Pete O'Grady offered me the job to continue as a district director, but I said, since we had made the national publicity and we were on a national basis right now through the help of the Highway Safety Foundation and the Wayne Corporation and all that I had to proceed forward with it. But anyway, I still kept in contact as much as I could with the Ohio Department of Highway Safety, and every year they would put out various publications, but every year they would, when we sent them information, they would put in information about our workshops in the state of Ohio when we would do it, where they would be held, and that type of thing. So they did that for us every year. Okay. This is from Mr. Harold Hoffman, who was the president of Theodore Authority. Remember that company? This is March 31st, 1978. My letter to him, actually, he sent me a letter in December 8th of 1977 informing me that my letter to Beverly Roberts came to him and that Beverly Roberts had retired and was living in Laguna, California, and that he was covering her work. I unfortunately never followed up and never went out to meet her and talk with her again. What a delightful lady, and I'm sorry, I really missed that. I think I'm going to put that with the... See, this is so hard for me to decide where some of this goes, because on one hand, I want to keep it in sequential order by date, with the latest always on the top, so we know what we did year by year. But then, also, I think it should be, like with the Prudential folder, everything should be together in Prudential folder, so we know what we did with that. So I think I'm going to put this in with the Theodore Authority, with Beverly Roberts, because that was with the Safety Council. I might change my mind later. There's no right way, I guess. Okay, April 13th, 1978. This is a letter from me to the Honorable Judge August Breitel, who was president of the Safety Council in Cleveland, president of the Greater Cleveland Safety Council. First it was the Cleveland Safety Council, then the Greater Cleveland Safety Council. Very, very nice man, and his wife was the guidance counselor at the Solon High School, as I mentioned, and she is responsible for me having sending Jackie to me, who was just a sweetheart. Okay, we sent this letter out. I sent this letter out to about 30 people, maybe 40 people throughout the country when I had to organize our advisory board. And what I did is I sent them a letter, and then I called on the phone and explained a little bit of what I needed for them to be on the advisory board. And here's just a brief summary of what was in the letter. Dear Judge Prytel, Cleveland is the home of our rapidly growing international organization. We serve as a coordinating resource agency and explain what we do. We are securing the guidance and assistance of individuals to enable us to continue and improve and expand our organization, and have created an advisory board to provide us this guidance and assistance. Our advisory board currently has 8 members, which we are expanding geographically. We invite your participation in our organization as a member of our advisory board, which consists of individuals representing various fields. We feel that your expertise and knowledge in the business world, your involvement with organizational work, plus your firm commitment to move Cleveland forward, you could make numerous valuable contributions and be a great asset to our organization. While we are basically a safety education organization, we are also a community involvement organization involving business, industry, organizations, city and school officials. We feel we operate a successful organization. We must have representation from these various areas. I would be most happy to personally meet with you to discuss our vitally important organization. And I called him and we set up a time, and yes, he did agree, and many other people did. Ruth Miller, Bill Bryant, a lot of important people in Cleveland. Okay. This is another letter from Cliff Green. No, this goes with the other one. It says it should have been, got misfiled here. Hold on just a minute. Just a minute, Dorothy. This one that says it should have been waiting for you, right there. Okay, it was waiting there. It's waiting now. This is from Robert Kasten, Member of Congress, Washington, D.C., from Wisconsin. He wrote to Peg Anderson from Fort Atkinson, Wisconsin, which is one of our safety towns. A lot of our local people, we encourage them to write. Dear Mrs. Anderson, when I received your letter, I contacted the Library of Congress to see if they had any information on Safety Town. I realize your program for this summer is over. However, I thought you might like the enclosed material for future use. Please be sure to contact me again if we can be of help in any way in the future. And I'm not sure what he sent her, but I think we were listed in there to contact us for information, and she sent that to me. Okay. It was sometimes difficult to get our local people to make copies of things that they got from the national, from Congress or other national agencies, because just time involved, I guess. This is from Lou Stokes, July 11th, 1978, member of Congress, and Congressman Stokes was very supportive of our efforts. Again, I think we could have done so much more with him had we had a nice time to do that. Dear Mrs. Schladd, I am in receipt of your letter and pamphlet regarding the Community Schools and Comprehensive Community Education Act of 1978. The safety of our children is without doubt a matter that should not be taken lightly. Please be assured that I will exercise H.R. 11418 and its ramification when it comes before the House for consideration. Thank you for expressing your views on this crucial matter. Now, one of the things that I always did is anytime that the Congress was going to vote on any educational bills for children that I felt was relevant, I would ask our Congress people to help support. And this was since I was so involved with community education, and I love the community education concept, and I was a member of the National Community Education Association, and I even gave donations to their foundation. I spoke at their conference, their national conference. Spoke at their first conference in Michigan, thanks to Larry Masteller. And then from there, because they were located in Flint, Michigan, they were headquartered out of Flint, And then from there I went, he was able to get me on a program in Las Vegas at their national convention a few months later. I don't know how he arranged it, but I was able to do that. So I really got involved with community education people, and I believed in their concept of working with the community. We were community involvement, they were community education. But this is, again, just one of the ways that we helped other organizations with their causes in furthering education for the children. Okay, National Safety 10 Week, order of the state. Okay, I think this was in 1978. I'm going to put this one with this. Okay, we'll do that one right there. Okay. Here's another. This is another letter that goes with. Okay, I'll put that here. That goes with Cliff Green from Victoria, British Columbia. Had 3 of them there. Don Marriott, Director, Young Highway Users Program in Albany, New York, State of New York, Department of Motor Vehicles. October 18th, 1978. Dear Dorothy, many thanks for the Xerox copy of your report directed to former Deputy Commissioner Basil Scott. Your observations and recommendations regarding the Young Highway User Instructional Program will be beneficial to us as the program unfolds. Another thing I forgot I did. We are pleased to learn that you concur with our decision to press ahead with this critically important traffic safety education effort. We are pleased to report that the total traffic safety community concurs with your thinking. Please keep us advised of Safety Town activities in Ohio and across the country. Nice talking to you at the National Congress in Chicago. So we supported and endorsed their program in that state. Carol Binker Carter, Assistant Coordinator, Commonwealth of Pennsylvania Department of Transportation, Governor's Traffic Safety Council. Dear Dorothy, it is difficult to believe that the 7th Traffic Safety Council Conference has already been concluded. When one considers the time spent preparing for the statewide meeting, those 3 days seem to pass too quickly. But the conference is behind us, and the immediate reaction is quite favorably. The traffic safety encounters and exhibits needed that professional touch to be worthwhile, and you voluntarily met that need. On behalf of the Conference Planning Committee, I would like to thank you for your kind assistance with the exhibit sessions. Your participation is appreciated by all of us working with the program, as well as by the conference delegates. Thank you for your support of the Youth Traffic Safety Council. We went up to Pennsylvania and had a display and helped them along with their other things. Okay, this is an article. I made lots of these little notes. This is an article that I wanted to, I wish I could have written probably 500 papers. Matter of just maybe 3 or 4 pages on different topics of children. One article I wanted to have was kids were being overexposed. I did not like watching television commercials, still do not like watching television commercials with children selling houses, selling cars, those types of things. I have no objection with kids being in commercials when it's relating to their education materials, their toys, but I was just so tired of putting them in an adult situation. I wanted them to remain as kids as long as possible, and not to overexpose them type situation. But I used to drive some people nuts with that. December 21st, 1978, from Joseph A. Wolf, Executive Director of the Columbus Safety Council. Dear Dorothy, thank you for your generous thoughts and comments regarding the recent National Safety Council Award I was fortunate to receive. This man was truly a very dedicated man. He was a police officer. I think he worked for the Department of Highway Safety, Bureau of Motor Vehicles for a while, and taught defensive driving course, taught me my defensive driving course, had me in tears because he was so impressive as a speaker. Much of the success I may have enjoyed through my career. I attribute to the consul's support and insistence I received from many of my friends throughout the nation. Persons like yourself who are always willing to expend that extra effort for the cause of safety. Again, thank you for your fine complimentary comments and the support I have received from you in the past. Best wishes to you and your family and a happy holiday season. I hope, I haven't heard from him. I think he had a stroke recently. Sorry, time out. Okay, we're back. Went that way, took care of the phone call, and had something to eat. Took a walk up to St. Armand's Circle to get my lottery ticket, because today is Saturday, January 24th. And I needed to get some fresh air, get my exercise, and hopefully win a lottery. Who knows? Okay, we'll finish where we were. We left that with Joe Wolf. Okay, as I said, I think he had a stroke. I know he had a stroke. I'm not sure. He was able to do some talking and walk, I think, with a cane. I should contact him to see how he's doing. Very, very nice man. This is from July. Excuse me. December 28th, 1978, Chagrin Valley Herald. It had local safety expert attend Safety Town conference. And it had a nice picture of me, and that's why I should have this blown up, because it's a nice picture. I didn't take too many nice pictures, but that one was a nice one. I like that one. And this is Dorothy Schlatt of Solon, founder and president of National Safety Town Center, was one of 600 educators to attend the National Conference on Safety Education at Central Missouri State University in Warrensburg recently. During the 6th National Conference, Mrs. Schlatt served on the Policies and Guidelines for a School Safety Program Committee, as well as the Resolutions Committee. Sponsored jointly by the American Driver and Traffic Education Association and the Association of State Supervisors of Safety and Driver Education. The purpose of the conference is to update policies and guidelines for safety education. This is the 6th in a series of such conferences dating back to 1949. During the last 2 years, 9 committees have been at work preparing, revising versions of documents outlining the decisions of previous conferences. These drafts are the working papers of the conference. The products of the present conference will serve as the basic policy and guideline statement in safety education in the years immediately ahead. They will be particularly useful to state departments of education, colleges and universities, government agencies, suppliers of instructional materials, school administrators, and safety educational personnel. I forgot how very important this meeting was when they said I was one of 600 educators to attend. I was very honored, because there were people there from not only the United States but other countries. Now, this was a very, very hard-working conference. And when it said that I served on the Policies and Guidelines for School Program, and as well as the Resolution Committee. But the Policies and Guidelines for School Safety Program was my main concern. I was not the chairman, of course, because a lot of older people in age really had to, this was an old boys, nothing sexist on that, it's just that's the way it was. So I was fortunate to be on the committee, and I tried desperately. You talk about lobbying for something. We were planning for the next 10 to 20 years in the education field, as it said, to give information to the schools and colleges and government agencies and universities and so forth. So we had to look in the future. Now here this was, 1978. I had been doing Safety Town since 1964. Preschool was growing rapidly. Most of the people that worked with me in this area knew this. Yet I could not convince them when we were talking about things, instead of talking about grades 1 through 12, they were just saying 1 through 12. They weren't even adding K. Once in a while they would say K, but mainly grades 1 through 12. I kept saying, look, it's pre-K through 12 years of age. We're planning not just for grades 1, but we're planning from pre-K when children are going to more children are going to nursery schools. There are more programs of this type. We need information for our teachers. We need information for our personnel. And while they agreed, it wasn't voted in. And I'll tell you, I was very upset with that because it wasn't something we were planning now. It was something in the future, which we were already doing now and should have definitely been included in the future. But as they explained to me, and I had heard many times before in the Ohio Department of Education, and I don't know how legally tied in this is with the local communities and with the State Department, but they said when people vote in the local communities for a millage or an operating levy, that it states there that it's grades 1 through 12 or K through 12, because many states did not have kindergarten requirements. I don't know even today in 1998 if all states have kindergarten requirements. You don't really you didn't have to send your child to kindergarten. You could just do it the first grade. But I think now all 50 states have kindergarten requirement, but I'm not up to date on that. It was just so important to me that K and pre-K should have been added. But anyway, as I said, when people vote in the voting booths, that's what they vote for, and that's why they said legally they could not say pre-K and K unless it was voted by the local school system. Very, very complicated. That's why you can see why I formed my own organization. I couldn't go along with all these individual things that you had to go through lobbying, legislating, and then go through the local communities and states, and I'm so glad we did it the way we did. I'm going to enlarge that and put that in the scrapbook, because that's very important. Oh, one very exciting thing about this conference, I worked so hard. I mean, I think I was up at 6 o'clock in the morning and talking and in sessions and working and rewriting documents and till at least 11 or 12 every night. And I think this conference went on for, well, it doesn't say how many days, but I can check because we have the proceedings of the conference. I think it went on like for 3 or 4 days. I think it was the afternoon of the third day when we took a break, about, I think it was a lunch break, or lunch break or afternoon break. I think it was lunch. I just think I had some peanut butter crackers in my purse and I ate it. Went out the back door of Central Missouri State University, from where this one of the meetings was held, walked out and took a right and walked down the street, and it seemed like literally the first dress shop I walked into, and I think I bought 3 dresses. I mean, just like that. I just had to do something different, and I loved them all. They were great. But I just had had enough. I had to go outside and get some fresh air and clear the mind, and it was wonderful. Probably if I would have been looking for dresses, would have looked for weeks and weeks, probably months, and never found it. Okay, that was in December of '78. We're now going to we're now going into 1979. And again, here's our new books that we started last year. Jackie wrote on one side and I wrote on the other side, and I just want to show you, I don't know how you can see, this is Jackie's writing. See how nice, and she had beautiful handwriting, and this is my scribbling. But it was easier for her to, she would write on hers usually in the morning, and because I worked later, I would do mine and fill mine out at night before I would go home. But she did this so religiously on her own, and even put in some of my dates of important meetings. Now this just happens to be Monday, April 9th, 1979, and it has the dates, the times, so Jackie was very precise in working by the time. 8:30 she processed the mail. She would get the mail from the post office and she'd process it and give me my mail, and she'd take care of the orders or whatever. 9:30, she sent notices out to the New York people regarding the change of location of our seminars. She had to take care of that. That's always a problem. 11:30, she typed letters from a tape that I had dictated, one half of the side of a tape. At 1:30, she addressed envelopes. She very seldom, she would go out to lunch once in a while, but she usually ate lunch at her desk like I did, and never put lunch in here. I don't think she ever took more than 15-20 minutes for lunch when she ate at the office. At 1:30, she addressed envelopes for the bi-monthly report. We didn't have, this was in '79, we didn't have a computer, so she had to either hand address them or to type them. And there were a couple hundred at that time, probably 200-300 in 1979. And then this was my schedule on the 9th. Okay, 10 a.m. I had a meeting with Marty Locks. And Marty Locks was the owner of the Ramada Inn, and we had a seminar there, and he was trying to find some fundraising people for us. At noon, I had lunch downtown with Bill Bryant, downtown Cleveland. 2 p.m., I had a legal meeting with Jim Griffith, our attorney. At 3 p.m., a meeting with Herb Hoppe, our other attorney. I wrote draft letters, went to the office, wrote draft letters to Jurgensen, O'Grady, and worked on Mr. Hero proposal. We were working on a proposal with Mr. Hero. 7 p.m., I went to a drug meeting. 8 p.m., I had a meeting in Solon with our accountant, Joe Ryan, took our IRS, and he explained our IRS for us. And then late in the evening, I read information, safety booklets, and articles. So that was really just a typical day that we would go through. 1979, volunteer efforts of Dorothy Schlatt. This is a large, 9 pages. 9 pages, single spaced. A lot of typing. This was prepared, I worked on this, and Jackie worked on this, and Frank worked on this. I was asked to submit to the YWCA Outstanding Young Women Award in 1978. Someone wanted to submit my name. I can't recall. I'll have to get, I think it was Bill Bryant that was submitting my name. I'm almost positive it was. But we had to prepare some information, and then he could take this and submit it. So we had to do a whole background. And this is really, Frank ended up writing this. And Frank wrote this, and then Bill Bryant was the one who did the nomination on this, I think. But I thought this was cute. And of course, again, keep in mind that I did most of the original thinking on this from my standpoint. And Frank wasn't too excited about the theme of it, but went along with it. And I just felt we needed something that told a little bit of our background. And I think this is the first thing we ever did that went back to when we actually met. So here it goes very quickly, and I'll just do bits and pieces of it. Having met this ambitious, enthusiastic gal in 1947, her 7th grade and my 8th grade, I became very interested and immediately began a dating relationship, sitting with her at noon movies during lunch period, which led to our marriage in 1956. Therefore, after this 30-year relationship, which includes 21 years of married life, I feel qualified to write to you about this most extraordinary lady. Even during those early years, her concern for others was evident. She shopped for older people in her neighborhood, plus helping them with chores, volunteered in school for every and any program, nurse's aide, teacher's aide, office helpers, and on and on. Being voted the most ambitious by her fellow senior classmates was certainly no surprise to anyone that knew Dorothy. Her 12 years of perfect attendance gives you some indication of her determination. I was not aware of that until graduation day, till they gave me an award, and it's also in the yearbook. This zeal continued throughout her college days, throughout our marriage, and continues with each day. It would take pages and pages to list specific things that she has done and accomplished. Her involvement in community service organizations are numerous: PTA, Junior Women's League, JCS, which included her serving as president in almost every organization she was a member. She headed groups to raise funds for a 6-year-old girl who was burned in a fire, designed a hat for an organization which won first prize for $20 for the organization, assisted at any school or civic function, and on and on. She assisted me tremendously when I campaigned for school board, going door to door, which resulted in my being the top vote getter. Anything she does cheerfully, happily, enthusiastic, and with unbelievable energy. While I feel she deserves awards in numerous categories for all that she has done, I will concentrate and inform you in detail on just her efforts in the safety field, primarily Safety Town, which is introducing safety awareness and preventive procedures to preschool children. She was very concerned about the safety of children and the lack of materials and educational information the program had available, especially to preschoolers. This, of course, led to countless number of lengthy discussions which would go into the early hours of the morning. Consequently, in 1963, when she heard of Safety Town, she was delighted. With 8 months, she organized Bedford Safety Town, which opened July 1964, and served as its director and teacher, which she continued to do for the next 10 years. This meant teaching 80 children a day, working throughout the year on publicity committees, obtaining volunteer teenagers from school, preparing visual aids. Not only did she volunteer her time and knowledge, but would very often treat 10 teenagers to lunch just because she felt they were great to volunteer the time to work with her. After her first year of teaching, she was unhappy with the curriculum. Too much time was wasted riding the cars, playing the games, and so forth. Her task was to change this. She met with educators, child psychologists, medical personnel, safety professionals, and on to obtain information. In June of 1965, she introduced what is known as the new concept of Safety Town, which included all areas of safety to 4- and 5-year-old children, and 22 new innovations necessary to organize and conduct an effective and successful program. This was tab A. We had to include, this was a large booklet, and we had to include different tabs, and this was tab A. I think we went to tab Z. Okay, the new concept was so enthusiastically received by the Bedford parents and the school officials, and it didn't take long for the word to spread to neighborhood communities. A great deal of interest was generated by Dorothy's new concept, and she received many requests. All wanted a safety town for their town. This began in 1966, and her reputation as an organizer and safety town expert quickly began to spread to neighboring states and eventually to all states and other countries. Her one-lady campaign was underway. Sample of letters, tab B. I sure wish I had all these tabs. Never took time to make them. She graciously accepted each and every request, spending her own money for traveling and babysitting expenses, simply because she wanted children everywhere to have an opportunity to learn about safety. In 1968, Dorothy organized and chaired the Safety Town Council, serving as its chairperson. The council purpose was for Greater Cleveland Safety Town personnel. Prior to 1968, no records were kept as to how many safety towns there were, which communities had the program, no coordination or communication between communities. Dorothy spent several months seeking names, researching various aspects, identifying goals prior to the first meeting, and then continuing her efforts in arranging agendas, speakers, and so forth. See tab C. Within 2 years, the council grew to be a statewide and too large for a luncheon meeting. Consequently, in 1970, Dorothy organized and chaired the first annual Safety Town Workshop, which was the first workshop in the world specifically for preschool children on safety education. This was an 8-hour event, and it went on to be an annual event. I would estimate that Dorothy has given well over 500 presentations, and this is in 1979, to local organizations, instructing teenagers, speaking to parents, etc., etc. Listed below are a few organizations which she gave presentations to: the National Assembly of Local Leaders of Traffic Safety in Washington, Highway Users Federation in Washington, American Motor Vehicle Conference in St. Paul, National Safety Congress in Chicago, and numerous safety state conventions, JCs, PTA, and so forth. In addition, she attended numerous conventions upon invitation only. The International Congress on Automotive Safety in San Francisco, the White House Safety Meeting in Washington, D.C., Health, Education, and Welfare Meeting on Child Development in Washington, D.C., Georgetown University Early Childhood Workshops, Federation of Ohio Safety Organizations. She has given presentations to students in elementary school specifically on safety instruction, as well as addressing students in college majoring in education. Because of her firm belief of the necessity of total safety, the new concept of Safety Town, strangers, bus, fire, playground, and so forth, her quest for obtaining as much knowledge and information in all areas of safety made it imperative that she attend as many meetings as possible. This included meeting on drugs, bicycles, motorcycle, driver education, school and commercial, child development, and also included every aspect of traffic safety, sign placement, engineering design, accident research. I think at this point I should mention that in the mid and late 60s, when Dorothy began talking about the importance and necessity of preschool safety education, very few officials met her with open arms. School officials were being confronted with school finances plus their normal 101 problems they faced daily, and the last thing they wanted to talk about was preschool safety education. She received similar reactions from business and elected officials. She said it was like trying to sell snow to Eskimos when they're standing in 5 feet of the white stuff. And that was my quote. Frank never liked that, but I thought that was a great comparison. Still do. The many discouraging remarks told her by these people would have stopped the majority of people from continuing their efforts, but not Dorothy. It seemed with each new negative remark came a challenge to her to prove it incorrect. That was true. Another very important factor that must be considered is that the late and middle 60s and early 70s was not prime time for women to be recognized in a man's field. While education was basically female, the traffic safety field was basically male. She would frequently attend a meeting, being one of many of maybe 4 or 5 women in attendance with 100 or more men. The latest meeting was she attended in Cambridge on Automotive Day, July 1970. There were approximately 600 men and approximately 10 women. Very often men would think she was affiliated with the women's lib movement until she explained her concern for safety. I want to stop here for a minute and tell you a story that I just thought of. When I was working for the Department of Highway Safety, Pete O'Grady asked me to attend a meeting in Mansfield, Ohio at the Country Club. I'm trying to think what the topic was. It was traffic related, but when I went there, it was all men. There were all men in this entire country club. I looked in the main dining room and for a seat, and 2 men came up to me and said, there aren't any seats available here. These are all filled. And I said, well, I'm here representing Pete O'Grady and Governor Gilligan. And they said, well, I'm sorry, you cannot sit here. And I was being funny. I said, well, let me find a lap to sit on and share a seat. And they didn't think that was very funny. They put me, so help me, they put me in the bar, and I never used to even sit in a bar or go in a bar. I couldn't stand the sight of a bar. It was smelly. I didn't like the bar stools. I didn't like the whole atmosphere of the smoking. They put me in the bar, and they put on the PA system, and the bartender was there working, doing his work, and I sat at a booth, and I was listening to the presentation from the other room and making notes. They would not allow me to sit in that main dining room, and I knew that I saw chairs that were available, and they would not allow me to sit in there. So that's that. Well, trust me, that's the way it was. Okay. The many discouraged. Okay, now another very important factor must be considered. It was the late 60s. I read that. Okay, sorry. One of her best qualities was and is her ability to interweave the importance of early safety training into almost any session she attended. For example, one meeting she was assigned to design of highways, she and about 90 men. The meeting began explaining the design, but after 1/2 hour of a 2-hour session, men from the audience remarked about the attitude of the driver, and Dorothy waited for the most opportune moment, then explained early safety training, which was so well received by those in attendance that the majority of the meeting centered around her remarks. Another quality that is admired by her audience is her fantastic ability to get people to commit themselves to work on the Safety Town committees. Her philosophy on this is getting people to do what you want them to do, but because they want to do it. And that was tab F. In 1973, after 5 years of trying to find an organization or corporation, or several of each, to sponsor a National Safety Town Center, a place with a desk, a telephone, will answer any questions that people anywhere in the country wanted, could get information, Dorothy found an organization. To say that she was excited, pleased, and extremely happy is a mild description of her reactions and feelings. The organization was the Highway Safety Foundation, which was located in Mansfield, Ohio. The agreement was that she would work voluntarily for them. This is the agreement with the Ohio Department of Highway Safety for 2 years, remember. That she would work voluntarily for them for 1 year, and that effective July 1st, 1974, she would be paid $30,000 a year with a staff of 10 for research, publicity, fundraising, artists to design visual aids, shipping and billing personnel to handle sale of merchandise, with offices in New York. That was exciting. A big factor at this point was that Dorothy agreed to let the foundation give a complimentary set of her books, 6 books, 300 pages, enclosed, to any community requesting them. Based on Dorothy receiving a salary, this was agreeable to her. The reason was the complimentary set of books was necessary, was due to the fact that the foundation was going to have a telethon in June of 1974. Giving her complimentary set of books was a major factor in the foundation's receiving permission to have a telethon. That was tab G. Dorothy spent 6 years researching, preparing, and writing the books, just to help other people in organizing and conducting a program, and eliminate the unnecessary pitfalls that people in the past, like Dorothy, had to go through, not having enough printed material or a place to turn to for help. So naturally, she was delighted that the foundation was going to provide these books free to towns. In preparation of the 74 telethon, Dorothy traveled throughout the country. The foundation paid for expenses, doing radio, television, newspaper interviews to generate interest for the telethon. Sammy Davis Jr. was honorary chairman of the Highway Safety Foundation. Fantastic publicity appeared in several national magazines and newspapers. Dorothy was never happier. Knowing that children and their parents in any town throughout the country could have the opportunity to learn about preventing accidents was what she wanted to achieve, and her dream was becoming a reality. See tab.